Hey Team 7th grade, this is Mr. McAtee. You guys have a little different day with the sub today. You have notes, so here's the deal. You're going to take 5 minutes to complete the warm-up. You'll see the answers for the warm-up, fix any blunders, and then you have a note session followed with bronze work, just like a normal class. So go ahead and take 5 minutes, and then press play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, so hopefully you found out that Joey Chestnut eats 76 hot dogs, which is about his record if you watch his 4th of July competition. He's the king of the hot dog eating contest. And then Claire is back, and the answer is 20 seconds. If you remember on Thursday, her record was 12 seconds, so unfortunately, she's getting slower. And then here's 2 fluency problems. Make sure you have these written down. And moving on to the aim. This packet is worth 10 points. You get 5 points for the notes and 5 points for completing all bronze. It is due tomorrow on Tuesday for 10 points. So whatever isn't finished will be due for homework. Today's aim is students will be able to solve ratios for a variable. So if you remember on Thursday, we had this weird silver problem if you got to it, and there was this variable mixed in here. So we're no longer answering yes or no. When we have a variable, we want to know what number is that x. I'm going to show you 2 methods, and then you get to use the most efficient method for whatever problem you want to. We're going to start out by looking at this 2 and the 8 and the 3 and the x. And one way to do this is we can always point our arrow towards the x and ask ourselves, well, for the numbers I know on the bottom, I want to get from 2 to 8. So what times 2 would be 8? 2 times 4 is 8. And if you know on the bottom 2 times 4 got you 8, for ratios, remember they're proportional, so you have to do the exact same thing. 3 times 4 is 12. So I know that the answer for x has to be 12. Since I multiplied the bottom by 4, I multiply the top by 4. You can also do this. It won't always work the best, this method. This is just for some of the times you can use this little trick. For all the other methods, we're going to use the cross products method. And in this method, I'm going to start out with my cross products, and I'm going to go from the 2 to the x. So 2 times x is what I'm thinking in my head. Whenever you use cross products, I'm thinking to multiply. Then I'm going to think in my head, well, the other cross is 3 and 8. So I'm going to do 3 times 8. And 3 times 8 is 24. Once you do the cross products, notice this looks like a one-step equation. And I'm going to draw my line down the middle. Well, what do I do with the 2 if I want the x isolated? It's a 2 times x, so do the inverse. Divide it by 2. The 2's cancel, and you're left with an x. And 24 divided by 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12. You got the same answer. 2 different methods. Example 2. Okay, I'm going to also set this up with 2 different methods, and then we'll see when I would use which method and for what purpose. I always start out by asking myself, where is the variable? And this time the variable's on the bottom. So I'm going to draw the arrow to the variable. We always want to point to that variable. And then I'm going to go the other same way to the right, and I ask myself, 5 times what is 20? How do I get from 5 to 20? And I times it by 4. If I multiply by 4 on the top, I have to multiply by 4 on the bottom. So 8 times 4 would have to be 32. Okay, so I just solved for it. Hopefully it's not too bad in your mind at this point. Let's solve it using the cross products and see if we get the same thing, just for fun. I'm gonna start out, and if you liked the circling things better than my highlighting, I'll do that as well. 5 times d is 5d, and 8 times 20, oh boy. Let's do some scratch work. That one's a bit large. 8 times 0 is 0, 8 times 2 is 16. So my one-step equation is 5d equals 160. Do the inverse of multiplying 5 times d, that's divide by 5. And I end up with d equals 160 divided by 5. And it looks like d for this is 32, which is what I got here. Notice cross products took me probably 3 additional steps. If you can use the multiplication method, this is definitely a bit easier, but it won't always work. Okay, let's try one more example. I'm going to start out with the multiplication method. And remember, I always want to draw the arrow to the variable. Okay, so there's the arrow pointing to the variable, same way up top. Notice something different. It's kind of going backwards, and let's see if we can make this work. I need to get from 10 to z, and I think in my head, well, how would I get from 14 to 7? And maybe you could raise your hand or pause the video. How would I get from a bigger to smaller number? That one's kind of weird, a little different. Well, I can multiply by a decimal, but I could also divide by a 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7, so let's do the same thing. 10 divided by 2, for this one, z would be 5. Let's try one more method. Use the cross products for this one. 7 over z equals 14 over 10. And we're going to multiply the variable by the number across. 14z equals 70. And divide by 14. Divide by 14. And I'm going to guess and check, and I bet you it is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 1 plus 2 is 70. So we got the same thing. The multiplication method on the left is probably a little easier, but there may be a silver problem that doesn't work using multiplication. Let's see here. Yeah, once you get to silver, you won't be able to use it. So go ahead and do the U-try. I'm going to pause the video, and then once you're ready, this should be done in about a minute silently. You can use whatever method you want, and then we'll see if you got it. And hopefully you got x equals 7 for the answer. Notice how my arrows are pointing to the variable. So I want to circle the variable, know that's what I'm looking for, and I always point to that one. You should have either set up for the rest of the bronze problems. You're welcome to work quietly through these for the remainder of the period. I need 1 through 9 finished. Those 9 are due on Tuesday with your homework. All work needs to be shown, either method. You can choose one or the other. And then notice after the gold, there's a couple of review problems. And these ones are unit rate, just like the warm-up. So you go ahead and add these 1, 2, and 3 to your homework. And I will see these on Tuesday. All right, guys, that's the way the cookie crumbles. As always, have fun. And see you tomorrow.